to these contributions. So today we have the second day of our work and this first session of our contributions. So my name is Pavel Molozhenkov. I'm supposed to moderate this first session. And we have three contributions, three papers. I'm happy to introduce the first one, which is agility-driven learning for educational organizations. So this is the paper which was submitted to, hello Vojta, which was submitted to MOBA workshop by Sergey Avdoshin, Elena Pesotskaya, Divani, Kuruppuge, and Angelina Strashnova. Hello Vojta, hello again. And yes, now I invite Elena. If I understood it right, Elena is supposed to be the person who will present this contribution. So I would do it in such a way. So, hello, Andre. I will do it in such a way. So we have 15 minutes for the presentation, for the oral presentation, and 15 minutes for the discussion. Please try to respect this time. Anyway, I will suggest you, let's say, where to accelerate, where not to. And just good luck and good work to all of us. Elena, you're welcome.
Okay, Pavel, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm very happy to open the second day of CAiSE conference and to be here with you. I have prepared a couple of slides, and if you don't mind, I will switch to demonstration of my screen. Could you please tell me if the presentation is available to you? Can you see it? Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so you can see it, you can hear my voice, great. I will start with the introduction of the idea, how we came to this idea, and I will start with the introduction of my team, who contributed a lot. So firstly, Sergey Avdoshin, he is the professor of Faculty of Computer Science, Software Engineering Department, and he knows this situation about the education and requirements for the agility in the education from the heart of the university, from inside. Also, two students, Angelina and Divani, supported in this research a lot and contributed a lot, as they know also from inside, being students and knowing all that required from the educational organizations, from the universities, from the educational service providers. And I also contributed being a docent, an associate professor at High School of Economics, working with the students, with their requests, with their demands, and understanding the situation, what they require in terms of skills, reskilling, upskilling, getting new knowledge, and all this stuff. So I will start with a question. It's a general one. Have you ever thought about getting a new job and faced the necessity to upskill? So here in our research, we are talking about students and about young professionals and professionals. So it's not only people who are studying in the universities, but people who faced, for instance, this COVID pandemic situation, and they face a challenge to change their current work, and they need to upskill, to get new competencies, to get new skills, and they face a necessity to go to online courses, to study with MOOCs, to study with external providers, to be demanded at the employer's market. We identified the situation and formulated the problem statement. From one hand, new technologies are rising, they're reshaping the future work, the context, and we made a huge research, and we understand that employers will seek out candidates that can continuously learn new skill. Now we're all talking about the fact that lifelong learning programs, they must be very flexible, they must be convenient to the students, and this is what is required by the labor market. From the second hand, the majority of professionals, they're not fully confident that they have all the necessary skills to manage their career, and they require new specific knowledge. And by the way, in the High School of Economics, we respect this request, and we suggest our students different individual tracks, so they can choose the subjects to learn, they can choose the time periods to get new knowledges. So we are also moving towards our students and these demands. From the second hand, we understand that educational and learning system must adapt to new challenges, to the reshaping environment, to the automation and digitalization challenges, and they must provide new environment and new approaches of how they provide knowledge to the customers. And by customers, of course, we mean students, young professionals, and people who want to acquire new skills. So this is how we came to the idea that we need to implement some agility to the educational process, and it will help people to adapt to new challenges and to seek out better career opportunities by having flexibility, by having individual tracks, by personalization, and by the fact that educational organizations will consider their personal and mindset specifics. What is the goal of our research? The goal of our research is to understand how agility and this framework can be introduced to the educational organizations, to the universities, to the educational service providers, to the higher schools and other organizations, and how this approach will set the individual educational track and assist personal growth in their career changes. To do this, we understand that we need to personalize the education, to suggest the shortest time to achieve personal goals, and to make the educational as much customized as we can to achieve these career goals. We conducted quite big analysis of key stakeholders, and we also conducted, I look at the numbers, we conducted a survey-based study among respondents aged from 40 to 70 years. It was Russian respondents, and we identified the key needs. So what we understand from our research, from the universities and students' perspective, we understand that while choosing an educational provider, students consider the time scale of obtaining relevant knowledge, they consider the quality and the relevance of this knowledge to be demanded in the employer market. So for students, it is important to get the knowledge fast and to get the relevant knowledge. Also, the key stakeholder is employees and postgraduates, and they also face the fact that they need to retrain themselves, and they want to breach this situation. They need to be retrained. So for postgraduates, we notice the fact that they change their career quite constantly. They can change industry where they're working. They can change expert knowledge they want to develop in. And sometimes they're experiencing a skill shortage, noticing a trend towards online educational, facing the digitalization and automation challenges. So they need to reskill constantly. And from the third point of view, there are companies and employers and a lot of research who prove the fact that the level of education and level of young professionals and students that come to these companies, they are not sufficient. So companies need to reskill the current employees instead of hiring new ones. So they suggest a lot of trainings, internal trainings or trainings by external providers, and they upskill these newcomers, people who come to the companies by their owns. By our methodology and framework, we solve several problems. From one hand, there are a lot of mock platforms available, and it's sometimes hard to choose the relevant one. People understand the need of upskilling, but they don't know what to choose. On the second hand, there are a lot of companies and executives that state that they experience a skill shortage, and they understand that people who are joining their companies, they're not good enough and they need to be upskilled. And a lot of graduates need to upskill themselves individually. So all these 3 points tell us that we need to adapt the existing educational tracks to each student needs, thereby increasing the effectiveness of online learning. And then the question that we pointed, how to do this? And our methodology, our framework answers this question. We set tasks of the educational agility framework, which we gained while our research. So firstly, we identified patterns in changing user behavior, because we faced a lot of facts that students start to study, but then they broke the educational because of different problems, because of lack of motivation, because of not relevant knowledge, because of poor educational, because of many reasons. So firstly, we need to identify patterns in changing user behavior while learning. Secondly, we need the adaptation of the educational path to the needs of the student. To do this, we need to test the knowledge of the students at the first point and to identify the gap and to suggest him how to bridge this gap and how to get to the end point, to the point where he wants to be finally.
Then sorry to interrupt you, you have 5 more minutes. Sure,
yes, I'm finishing, thank you. So our goal is adapting the existing educational track to each student needs, considering its personal and mindset capabilities. We conduct our study in 5 steps. Our methodology includes 5 steps. Firstly, we prepare the educational track and build a skill-driven educational graph. And Angelina will illustrate this graph a bit later. I know that we have 3 more minutes. Then we analyze the user behavior on the platform. We analyze execution speed, how fast he moved through these learning modules. We analyze outflow time, it's time of absence of the students. Then we test skills and identify the learning method and improve the motivation considering specific metrics. Then I will ask Angelina to briefly introduce the key elements.
Yes, hello everyone. I will try to be faster. The methodology implies 5 main functional parts, but we can see that first and second, it's expert judgment and methodical processing is a traditional approach for formation of educational product. In our speech, we are going to show you this third one that includes graph theory that will represent our educational track, data analysis that will allow us to classify and predict behavior of our student, and gamification is a tool to keep motivation of our student. So let's go next slide. Okay. At the screen, you can see the traditional educational paths that present by the sequence of skills. Skills can be 1 level or multiply level, and traditionally we can see that that is the sequence, and a person who have different background can start this part not with any vertex in this sequence, and we know that we can represent this sequence into graph because we have some connection, but if we can see different skills in the graph, you know that maybe the later skills can depend on the earlier skills. So we should represent it to keep the logic of training. We offer the next decision, that is skill-driven educational graph. On the slide, you can see how we show an approach to shaping educational track through the graph. The verticals are the skills of our student, while the green verticals are what he still has to get, and the black vertices what he has already received or has already visited. The weight of the vertex is the time during people in the segment pass the given skill. The edges provide the relationship between the vertices. For example, otherwise we have an edge between the vertex of addition and multiplication, which tells us that student must learn first learn to add and only after that learn to multiply. The weight of H indicates the priority of passing between skills if there are several paths. So having already marked the top that the user has passed, we can use a depth-merged traversal of the graph to build a unique personal education track. It can be built through a heap with prioritization by the number of incoming vertex reader. As a result, the user will be able to start learning from any vertex while retraining the logic. He will be able to receive only the context that is relevant for him, confirm his skills at any time. He will be able to calculate the most suitable and fast path for him. Next one. So one of the most important parts is keeping the user motivated and observing his progress in learning. To do this, we count the time to complete each skills and the time the user is away from the platform. The assessment can be given a graph in which we have 4 quarters. If indicators are kept within the norm, changes are not possible. In the case of increasing the model completion or execution time, but maintain the outflow time within the norm, the conclusion is the lack of skills on the student parts. A preventive measure in this case is either an offer to the student to master the previous skills, if it exists, or rearrangement the graph. In the case of an increase in the outflow time, we conclude that the user has reduced motivation. The most effective solution is to use game mechanics that directly affect the primary student type's main motivational key. In the case of an increase, thank you. In the case of increased both of indicators, we need to have 2 approach. So no, you can go.
Yes, Angelina, please.
I will suggest, yes, to summarize, yes.
Okay.
Let me summarize, if you don't mind. So, of course, our research is mature, but there are some limitations. We need to test it a little bit, and we need to pass, to make a lot of students pass through this system. But we tested already on a small variety of students, so it works quite good. We determine the main patterns of students' performance. We are able now to optimize the process of adaptation of the student by knowing his gaps and moving towards his gaps. And we can now control the level of student motivation, as Angelina showed on this matrix. So we can say that currently the educational agility framework works good, but of course we are going to improve this by getting additional information and data on the students that are passing through this framework. So thank you very much, and we'll be happy to answer your questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Elena, Angelina, thank you very much too. So yes, now we pass to the question and answers session, to the discussion, and actually I would like to open it with these 2 questions. Please, Angelina or Elena, so you talked, by the way, if you please can come back to the previous slide, 1 slide again.
Sure.
Yes, the slide number 15. Yes, this one. Perfect. So here we are talking about, I see this, this expression, the students' needs. What do you mean by students' needs in the education? Because actually it's, let's say, the fundamental point of the entire research. What do you mean by students' needs? Educational needs, for sure.
Yes, I will start.
when the
I will
students
start and Angelina will support me. So by the students' needs, of course, we understand the profession and the job he wants to get. But moving to this job, he needs to understand the set of competences and skills. So by the needs in general, it is job opportunity and career opportunity. But here in this framework, it's skills plus competences, because skills and competences, it's the thing that we use in our framework and put it in the graph that Angelina showed you. Skills and competencies.
So probably in this case, if I understood it right, it is probably more correct or better to talk not about students' needs, but about, if you are talking about the jobs needs. So what are the requirements the enterprises advance towards the students? So the students' needs are always functional, are always, let's say, secondary, according to the needs that enterprises advance towards them, right?
Yes,
because,
absolutely.
Yes, probably it's quite difficult to imagine the situation in which the student is completely and perfectly aware of what the future employee will need from him, will ask him. And that's the point I'm interested in it is, do you think about some data collecting from the enterprises about the set of competencies that are requested in the future specialists, so in nowadays students? Do you preview this aspect in some way, in any way in your work?
Yes, Pavel, thank you for this question. We are in the process of doing this kind of research. So we try to bridge the competencies we get from the employers with the skill set. You're absolutely right. So for instance, if an individual wants to become a software engineer, we try to get the requirements, what skills and capabilities do this individual need to get during the university or external education. That's right. This is a very important question. And I know that there is a lot of classification of professions, European classification, if I'm not mistaken, it's called ESCO, European classification of jobs, which bridges, as you mentioned, these job offers with competencies. But we are also working towards this process. It's not implemented in this research, but yes.
Yes. And another question that I have is, so this process, as we have understood and as you described it, it's quite a flexible and adaptable process. Have you thought about the applying of artificial intelligence apparatus here, for example, neural networks, which usually deal with, let's say, uncertain and flexible information? Is it possible, to your mind, to apply it somewhere here? Have you thought about it?
Yes, I know Angelina.
If we speak about AI, yep. Yes. We will speak about AI. Yes, it's our next step. We need to predict the way that will user go through educational content. But now we have not enough data for that. Just now, I'll try to use linear regression to predict the motivation of user. And we have the data from online university skill box. It's some type of data, yes, but if we can have enough data for this, it's really the next step that will improve our research too much. Yes.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. So please, other questions? The questions can be asked both, let's say, in chat and by voice. So please, dear friends, dear spectators, dear participants, you are welcome to ask the questions to our authors of the paper. Please, any question? Laura, please add me a panelist in room for Pietra Pavlichkova. No, it was mostly the question for Laura. Okay, any question related to the paper? Dear participants, please, both in chat and in well, I see no questions, no more questions. So Angelina, Elena, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, and we go forward. So we have then our second presentation, our second paper, claimed for today, which is Agile Game in Online Environment. It was presented by Andrei Halazik and Petra Pavlichkova. Andrei, if I'm not mistaken, you are supposed to present it.
Good morning.
Yes, you are welcome. Good luck.
Before I start, it is okay. I have really bad internet connection, so I switch off the camera and just share screen with presentation. If it's okay, I'd rather be not disturbed by drop the internet. So let me tell you if you see the share screen, please. I'll try Zoom. Oh, net. Just a minute. Yeah. Should be okay now. I have to allow it in the system preferences. Yeah, it's okay. Thank you. So I'll start. You should be only see the presentation, correct?
Yep, all good.
Yeah, thank you. So once more, hello everyone. I would like to present it to you our last paper, latest paper about agile game in online environment. And at the beginning, I would like to introduce my colleagues. The first colleague is Dr. Petra Pavlichkova from Czech Technical University in Prague, Faculty of Information Technology, which she's here with me. And I hope she helped me a little bit. And the second one is Dr. Pavlicek, which is from the same university as me, which is Czech University of Life Sciences in Prague, Faculty of Economics and Management. As you can see from this slide, we had two important questions before we starting write this paper. The first question was very problematic because of pandemic situation. We had to figure it out how to play the game with students somehow remotely, and they haven't been in school physically. So we want to the same results as we were with the board game. This problem lead us to the second problem, which tool we use for the game itself and which tool we use for communication, creating samples and doing the design concept, which is crucial for the game. Yeah, it is whole concept of the game. They have to do some type of project. In this case, it's graphical design. In order to understand the reasons for choosing a given software tool, it's necessary to describe the concept of the agile game briefly. For more detailed information about the game, you can read an article from the area conference from 2020, which concerned primarily education issues. Our game is 90-minute long, where each sprint lasts exactly 15 minutes. So the game consists of a maximum 6 sprints. However, if students somehow manage to complete all the tasks earlier, it's absolutely no problem. The game ends here. Yeah, the game could end before 5 sprints if all tasks were be done. The game is played with students of follow-up master study in the second year in the subject IT project management, where students are divided into individual teams of 5, maximum 6 students. And the game is created in the Agile Scrum framework, mainly because Scrum is currently one of the most used in IT projects. Another reason is that the authors have the most experience from practical project with just that. The main content of the project is the creation of graphical design according to text assignments in the form of user stories and epics from a fictive customer, which fictive customer is represented by teacher in the game or some specialist in the agile development. And the subsequent control and acceptance of individual agile deliveries. By agile deliveries, we are meaning the accepted user stories with some small tasks. Tools we choose. For the purposes of creating graphical design and wireframes in the game, the Draw.io tool was chosen mainly for its ease of use. Furthermore, it does not require any license or installs anything. You only need to have installed the web browser on your computer. That's all. The next step was to choose a communication tool, and there were really many candidates in the game from Google Meets, Zoom, for example, and Microsoft Teams, which was finally selected. Microsoft Teams were chosen for several reasons. One of the reasons was their relatively easy of use when managing multiple groups. We had in the last game, I think something around 62 students, and if you divide it by 5 or 6 students, you have something around 50 or 12 groups. I don't know precisely how much we had, but it was something around 10 groups. So you need to manage more groups at the one time. So because of that, we choose Microsoft Teams. And Microsoft Teams was chosen also because for students is free of charge on the university. They can download it very easily and use it. It's also to record the process of the game and save it in the school cloud for later for some possible analysis. I think that you probably haven't heard about the Juno One tool because it is a tool that was created relatively recently in Czech Republic and also win the award IT Product of the Year in Computer World Survey in 2018. Juno One is ADLM solution for software development companies, software deliveries companies, and also software integrators. It was invented, as I mentioned, in Czech Republic by company Divani SRO, and it comes with a solution designed to simplify and streamline the software development process, and it's possible to create all kinds of projects here. The proper management of development and testing process, control, organize, and be very effective. In order to be able to play the game with students, it's necessary to provide them with all the necessary documentation for the game, especially the rules of the game itself, some project assignments, and access to the project in Juno One software tool. Yeah, Juno One software tool, and it's necessary to have just rights set up correctly because students don't have to see the other groups project. They can have different solution and so on. To understand the basic of agile project management and the Scrum framework, they must attend a 90-minute, something around 90-minute lecture, where students will be explained the necessary basic for playing the game and briefly explain the rules. They also can read the rules in a detail in the game documentation. Students have to be prepared for the game, otherwise the outputs could be distorted. The game designed it so that a few external programs are needed, and it is not necessary to install any specific software. In principle, it is necessary to have a laptop or some computer with stable internet connection during the game and internet browser install, and ideally install Microsoft Teams application, but still they can also be launched via just web browser. Therefore, the game can be played purely theoretically, even with the browser installed. All students playing the game must have access to the Juno 1 application with the correct set rights to see only their project, as I mentioned before. If the students has meet all these above points, it is possible to proceed to the game itself. They can play it now. They have all necessary softwares and they have lecture. So they are able to play it now. As you can see from the picture on this slide, we have plenty of user stories in our project. It is exactly 22. Every user story has several important attributes. The most important is for sure priority of the user story, which is, I think, 4th column. And you can see 3 types of priority here. We have low priority, which is most of them. Then we have medium and critical, but you can use 4, and we haven't here a hard priority, I think, or yeah, hard priority. It's something between medium and critical. And the second important attribute is the status of the task. If you have status in backlog, it means this user story wanted to be done in an actual sprint. Status to do means that this user story should be done by end of actual sprints, and status is in progress and done. I don't know if I need to explain it more. If you have status in progress, that does it mean some student from the team actually working on that task, and status done means that the task is done and accepted by customer. In our case, we mean the teacher.
Andre, please, you have 5 more minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. On this slide, it is possible to see detail of each user story that the students is working on. There should always be a user story in to-do state to be assigned to someone specific on the team. Each user story contains a short description and necessary key acceptance criteria. It should have every user stories. If the students designs for example, mobile apps, logo, web page, etc., it's necessary to upload it into comment below, as you can see from the screen, and assign it to the customer. If the customer accepts the solution, he assigns user story to done state and writes a comment about the acceptance. Otherwise, if he had some complaints, he writes a comment on what needs to be redone and throws the task back to the to-do state and assign it to the original solver. And the last important part, which I would like to show you, is definitely the Scrum board of whole project. And it is, I think, the most important for students as well, because they need to learn how to manage the task during the 6 sprints. Only in backlog sections are all user stories that need to be submitted at the end of the 6th sprint and accepted by customer. The whole board works dynamically, and it's possible to drag and drop tasks around the whole board by automatically changing their status in the background according to which column is it in. If the students move to the individual user story, it's possible to edit them directly by clicking on the pencil. If you watch some of these user story, the pencil is right next to the arrow in the cycle. It's on the right side in the down corner. If you click on this pencil, you will see this detail of the user story and you can directly edit it. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, it was not possible to play the game in an alpha version, which must first be tested in people's present to catch the biggest shortcomings of the game. Then it will be possible to play it remotely in a beta version. After successfully playing the beta version of the game, it will be possible to start playing the game with students the following semester. Nowadays, distance learning due to the unfavorable pandemic situation around the world has become a very big topic, I think. Last year, we converted the agile games into software Jira, but this version wasn't ready to play it remotely. It was still a board version of game, just using a Jira tool for managing tasks, but it won't be ready for playing it remotely. Due to that, unfortunately, we were not able to play the game with students in the last semester 20/21 year, which was evaluated as a negative in the evaluation of whole subject because the students have heard about the game from the previous colleagues. A clear plan for future is to play the game remotely with students and evaluate whether it's as successful and beneficial as the Agile Games board version, and whether the game is playable in an online environment at all in our form that we created. We would also like to confirm that playing the game will provide students a piece of practical knowledge and experience in some specific tool. In future, thanks to the possibility of playing remotely, the game should have potential to collect a much larger number of results from more target group for some better and more accurate research result. The game serves primarily as a tool for agile IT project management research and also as a support tool for a practical education of students. So it's from me all. Thank you.
Yes, Sergey, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your paper and for your contribution. We are now passing to the question and answers session. Please, dear participants, ask your questions. I repeat that you can do it both by voice here in the conference and in chat. I have one question, Andre, please. As far as, let's say, so what do you think? And basing also on the results that you obtained in your paper. So which particular outcomes can be expected for the students in terms of obtaining of new knowledge, of skills, competences, and so on and so forth? So due to the approach you propose and due to the game process that you describe, what could be the practical outcomes for the students?
Just for students, as I said before, we played not last year because Corona pandemic situation, but before 2 years, we played just in the board game version, and we got survey from the students, and it was focused on 2 parts. First part was if the game itself was beneficial for them, if they learned something, and the feedback was really good from students, and I saw it into the final exam. They had more skills and more knowledge about the topics in an agile environment. And the second part of the survey was team role analysis. So we can say which person, his personal characteristic fit on which role. We wrote the article on that. There were conclusions that product owner or Scrum master should be someone who's really responsible person. He can decide it which task would have more priority. But for the other hand, on the position like graphical junior or senior designer, doesn't matter which is junior or senior, they have to be very precise, and they are like, I don't know how to say it, they own pace. I don't know, for example, take some time for their work, and they don't want to be disturbed from the work. So I think that's it. That
Yes,
was
I
the
see.
two.
What if you are talking about the agile environment? Let's say, what are the manifestations of this agility? So why do you characterize this environment like an agile one?
We characterize it because of the project we choose, and we split it or sprints. Yeah, because of the type of the project, or we want to choose Scrum framework because we can divide it on the sprints and demonstrate the main concept of the agility on that.
Yeah, I see. Yes, thank you very much. So please, dear participants, dear colleagues, other questions, remarks? And only just in order to, let's say, probably to conclude, if there will be no other questions, what could be, could you please explain it probably a bit better? What could be the directions of the future development of your paper? So what are you going to do after, if you think it's worth continuing?
First of all, I would like to compare the board version game with the remote one. And second one problem that I would like to solve is if the game is more beneficial than in practical way like that, then classical theoretical method which they are teaching in university in normal. So I would like to do conclusion if it's the same or the more beneficial for the students.
And I will get a comment, and it's also the research about the projects, IT project, and agility, and the team roles, because there is a big topic about the team roles and the real concrete human that is taking the role in IT projects. So it's a really nice part. And this tool, this agility game, is a tool for the research, and it's also the part of the Andre dissertation. He did the dissertation on this topic.
I see. So probably it is also one of the ways, let's say, to involve the students in the research activity that any university carries on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. Please, are there any questions?
I think there's one question in the Q&A.
No questions. So
there's one in the Q&A.
Pavel, there is question.
There is one question.
Yes, I catch it. What are the problems, challenges you encountered in the experiment? We had experiment, and it was with the board game, and there is the tricky thing that we played with the students, and at first of all they didn't know the right way how to do the agility, because they know a lot, they are doing maybe practically in some companies, but the right framework, for example, this is Scrum, they didn't know from the theoretical point of view. So first of all, it was for them the experience of how to do the sprints, how to do the IT project in the sprints, and the second one with the roles, because we had the cards, and on the card there was the name of the role, and they were chosen the card, and there was the role. So another tricky thing was if they can play the game with the real role. For example, they didn't know. For example, someone which is programmer and he played the Scrum Master and so on. So it was nice to see the students, how they was playing this. And so we played this. And then for this moment, we will see what we are doing in the online environment with the game. So this was two things maybe that was the most pointed from us. Andrei, maybe some comment from you?
We have challenges also when we play the game. It from not just students' view, but from our view, we have to manage multiple groups. So I manage it 3 groups at a time. And it's not possible to handle it. You have to split the groups, more than 2 groups. It's not able to be, you cannot handle more than 2 groups at one time. And students had complaints about project assignments, about they didn't understand it fully. So the lecture, the 90-minute lecture, I think it will be very beneficial for them in the future. They have just project assignments and short lecture about 30 minutes about rules and assignments. So they have complaints about that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Petra. Thank you, Andrei. So let us pass to the last contribution of this first session. So it's the paper filling the gap between business and application development using agile BORM. So it's by Vojta Merunka, Himesha Vaikun, and Boris Shogolov. Vojta, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, hello, can you hear me, please?
Speaker. Hello.
Yeah, I will try to display my presentation on screen. Wait a minute, second. So now I hope it should work. No, it's wrong. Moment, once again. Can you see my presentation or not? You do, yeah?
Yeah,
We can see it.
Just not in a presentation mode. We can see the other slides as well.
Aha, because it is not visible here on my computer. And now when I switch, do you see it as well? Agenda and back. Do you?
Yeah, we can still see the presentation.
Ah, perfect. Thank you very much. Because this software, I have 2 monitors and it is a bit confusing for me. So, hello. I thank very much for my opportunity to speak about our research. Mr. Himesha Vijakun is a young researcher. Boris Szczegolev is also a young researcher from the Czech University of Life Sciences in Prague, and I am the supervisor in PhD thesis. And I will talk about it. So my paper is filling the gap between business and application development using agile BORM. So I will try in a few minutes to explain you how it works and what is the main idea behind of this. Well, I will have some introduction, motivation, will present you some examples and discussion and conclusions, standard. So let's go. Agile methods and requirements modeling. If you can read the Agile Programming Manifesto, which is maybe exactly 20 years old, Agile Manifesto, you can feel from this text that agility and agile style of the software development is about absolutely no diagramming. Because they say, pioneers of agility say that a developer must not waste time with some complicated diagramming and must start coding as soon as possible because of more efficiency, more customer satisfaction, and so on and so on. It's very nice, but there is also the dark side of the agile style of programming, because it requires much more testing, for example, and clients, customers, future users of software must be involved. They cannot wait at the very end of development, but they must be also team members, and they must communicate. There is much more communication between developers and future users. Yeah, and this communication is sometimes annoying for software users, people, because it takes their time. Yeah, and we propose some improvement how to fill this gap in communication between people who must be involved in the software agile development and developers. Of course, we feel that standard diagramming, UML or elder methods are very, very complicated, and this is exactly in the contradiction with the principles of agility. But we feel or we think that does not mean to cancel any diagramming, because if you define user stories, for example, if you define iteration meetings in Scrum, you need to document this information, and it also must be tested. And what your tests will be based on? Of course, some kind of a documentation, description of requirements. This is the point, yeah. But still, there is a very strong question: what diagrams, if any? Very strong approach is no diagrams, just write it. Okay, might work. It is very frequent, yeah, because standard diagrams are very, very problematic, and this is exactly, as I said already, in the contradiction with agility. Well, I want to say yet one idea. What we think, these agile methods, extreme programming, Scrum, Crystal methods, and other methods are maybe 20 years old, or about 10, 20, 10, 15 years old. Yeah. And why they arose, why they have been invented. Our idea, and also the experience, because we are not only from the academia, but we worked also many years in the international consulting and management company Deloitte, international management consulting. Yeah. So this is also a practical experience. So we think that in that time, 20 years ago, diagramming techniques, UML as well, and previous techniques, elder techniques, are very obsolete, because they regarded at the software development process, and especially programming tools, as as the only nothing else than a big text of program which must be compiled, which must be created based on diagrams, and maybe assembled and maybe tested and so on. But it is very wrong, because you know how software is programmed today. We have reusability, we have development environments, we have a lot of already build building blocks. We have design patterns. We have incremental development. Pieces of software is working and is able to be tested before the whole part is assembled, piece by piece. Yeah, programmers are sharing their code, so everything is very different from standard interpretation that programming language is only some big piece of text which must be assembled based on diagrams, then compiled, and so on and so on. Of course, there was revolution against this very rigorous and very conservative approach, and it is called agile programming, agile methods. Yeah, of course, but we still need, and maybe we need more than before, we need to define requirements. Yeah, and we need to have some communication tool with people. So, and this communication is born. It is elder than agile techniques, because it emerged, especially as I said, in the software international consulting and management company Deloitte, and it was originally intended for business process engineering project, and later it has been extended to the software development, and yet later it has been adapted to agility. Yeah, so our BORM is very old, from the mid of 90s. So, but it is still evolving, and now we feel that it is a very good tool for support to improve communication in the agile development. So I will not explain you what is the BORM actually, but I will show you just examples. Well, it is not important because it is well described in the text. So the core of agile BORM is this diagram. This diagram is very simple. It consists of only about 5 concepts, and it shows process participants who are behaving as finite state machines. On the background is the theory of melee automata and the Petri nets. Yeah, and here you can see some supplier who is sending his invoice. There is a bookkeeping department, some SAP, SAP. It is a big enterprise information system, bank, and so on. And the whole circle, whole process is about how invoice is paid. We have got a simulator. You can see simulator. On the background is the Petri net. Yeah, so you can use on the screen. You can play this game. Now I went back in the time. Now I go forward again, and you can see this simulation. It is very good.
We have 5 more minutes. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm ready for it. So you can see that that it is a very good tool for communication and refinement and making idea of users more precise. Yeah. Here you can see independent automata which are mutually interconnected each other, and you can also select what is the software system and what are actors around of the systems and what is a user interface of your future software, and everything can be extracted using some algorithms because we have tools. Another example is building permission management for our Ministry of Internal Affairs. So again, simulator, there is a dialogue. You can control this simulation and so on. And again, independent automata and the total workflow. Yeah. So We made several projects. One interesting project is the design of processes and also information system requirements for the new faculty of information technology at Czech University of Technology, Czech Technical University in Prague, which was this new faculty, and a lot of other projects in the last 15 years. Well, how to conclude this presentation? In the UML, there are many diagrams and very detailed, which must be trained, which must be educated for expressing internal behavior of use case processes and objects. Almost 4 diagrams, you can see here 4 diagrams, are contracted into only one Born diagram and are simplified to be efficient in agility. This is the point of my talk. Yeah, we reuse UML concepts, but we made a special combination, special simplified combination, which is good enough for agile development and is not against the principles, the agility, because many complicated diagrams is absolutely the opposite of agility. We believe that our approach is not. So, and that's all, I think. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Wojta. Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, dear participants, please prepare your questions. So I repeat that you can ask it both by voice and write them in the chat. Still, I have one question. Wojta, please, to your mind, how do you think, how could your results be applied to one of the most classical problems in the enterprise engineering or enterprise architecture field, which is the improving of the comprehension, of mutual comprehension between IT and business managers? Because so you tackled upon this topic, which is really very important, which is the quality of the communication between different business agents. So how could it be applied to this problem? So is it possible, thanks to your results, to improve the level of the communication between different?
Yes. If I will understand your question, Paul, you are asking me for a classical development process, not agile. Yeah. In the classical development process, there is a use case. You can see it on this screen. And the use case is very general. And if you want to speak about the internal details of use cases, you need to use expansion to many other diagrams. So the problem is almost the same or very similar as with agile development, because people are from business stakeholders, people who are not programmers, are not able to understand these complicated UML diagrams because they are not trained for it. But our experience with our simplified diagram is very promising because we need only about 20, 30, 40 minutes of some internal training or internal education. So it can be done at the start of presentation, and then people understand, and then people are able to read our diagram. So this is the same effect of the simplicity.
Yeah, thank you, Wojta. And another question that I have is, so how could you explain, how could you, let's say, describe the cruciality of the problem you have chosen as a topic of your team? So why this gap between business and application development is really important? So why do the enterprises suffer it?
I understand. I think that the software development is wrong in one thing, classical interpretation of the software development, regardless it is rigorous or agile. because they think that system, as you can see here, is already known and actors around are only actors. But what is important is also behavior from an actor to an actor. This is the behavior outside of our system we develop. It is maybe not important for a programmer, but it must be set because without this change or design of human processes, people with people around of software, external from software, are also important. Because if people are not educated, are not aware about this communication, they will fail with software because they will expect that this communication must be inside of the system, and it is not. It is outside. The information system as a whole, holistic approach, is not only computer software. It is also people who are using this software. And these people are also elements of this system, and the relationships between these people, each other, are also making the information system. So this is basically, if I need to answer in one sentence or one word, a few of words, it is the holistic approach. This is the point.
I see. And have you ever tried to, let's say, to estimate, to assess the economic hazard, the economic loss that the enterprises obtain, let's say, having this gap? So how does it, let's say, how damaging is it? How hazardous is it?
Yeah. I remember some projects from this table, which were basically about the business processor engineering, and the new information system was only the very end of this everything. So before it was long months of consulting and management with change of business processes. And there were some measurement how to save money, how to save time, how to decrease the communication of people. For example, electricity supply companies or gas supply companies invoicing from people, and so on and so on. And the information system was only the end. It was only the roof of this everything. But how it has been computed, I cannot answer exactly at this moment. There were some metrics, some key performance indicators and standard business management and consulting techniques.
Yeah, so probably in a way it could constitute the good material for the future development of this topic. Yes, thank you very much. Please, dear participants, other questions, other remarks and observations for this work? Well, if no, I see no more questions. Laura, do you?
Yeah, please, Paul, let me to say a few words. Please, dear participants, everybody who were watching me, who were listening to me, read our paper in the proceedings. There is much more, not only this presentation. Thank you very much for your attention again. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So now we can consider close this first session of our second day of MOBA workshop. Just some conclusion of it. So we have assisted to 3 presentations. 2 of them were mostly dedicated to the didactic aspects of agility, and 1 of them was mostly practical oriented. So thank you very much, and I think that both for the spectators and for the participants it was useful, because both have have acquired and have understood different new sides and points of their researches that for sure can be used in the future. Thank you very much. Now we are going to have a small